I've been thinking a lot about creativity and writing. I published this book quite a while ago, and then somewhat more recently I published this one, which is the sequel. And writing a sequel is kind of weird because I think that good stories should stand alone and be unique and have their own value, but I'm writing a series now, and that's kind of weird. It almost goes against my fundamental belief about what makes stories good. And it got me to thinking, why am I writing these at all? Writing is a really weird thing to decide to do, just as a medium. It's not like a lot of other art forms where there's something at the end that someone can kind of look at and understand at a glance the complexity or the precision, right? With a movie or a TV show, you can look at a few frames or look at a trailer and you can kind of tell really quickly whether or not that thing seems like it's well put together, well directed, well produced, well cast, well acted. With other things like visual art, you can look at something and is it pleasing to look at? Does it make you emote and feel something? Writing is unique in that the only way to know if some writing is good is to pick up a book and read it. And sure, someone can tell you it's good and you can read a review and you can listen to someone on a podcast tell you how good it is, but it's not really the same thing. It's one of those few mediums or art forms where it's purely experiential. I suppose the closest analog would be something like video games, maybe. But even then, that kind of has its limits, because you can measure it in other merits. What are the graphics like? What are these things like? It's funny because the industry doesn't really care about those things. When you look at the publishing industry and what becomes popular, it's usually about content. Does this cover something contemporary that people are interested in reading? Is it tapping into some larger consciousness, some conversation happening? And that has merit, yes. I think content is important. Are you covering something people want to read about? But the other axiom of that is the work by itself good? Does it have artistic merit? Is it trying to do something? Is it well crafted? Is it well paced? There are metrics that exist within the writing space that are almost invisible to readers because you're just there for the story. And so we spend all of this time and this energy and this dedication in the creation and editing process to bring to bear as many tools and tricks and practices and techniques we can to make our work as good as we can. And the truth is, if they're really good and really well done, you won't notice them. They're invisible. And that's kind of weird. It's an odd thing to realize. That leads to a larger question I've been thinking about. What does good mean in this context? For book one, good meant that people picked it up and as a debut novel, they enjoyed it. And that is a pretty easy thing to quantify. You can go to Goodreads and you can find that out. People seem to like it. But what does a good sequel look like? What is a good sequel supposed to do? What's it trying to achieve? How do we know that as a sequel it's a good standalone story as well? There are these other questions that get raised that aren't so easily answered by looking at a review. Worse than that, people can like the book or dislike it for reasons that have nothing to do with the way you wrote it.
It's a wonderful read, and when you reach to the main story, the book sticks to your hand and you can't keep it down. Looking forward to the second part of the story, as the story was not complete and I'd like to know more. 2 stars.
It's not even really a fantasy book, is it? It's a fundamentally strange problem with artistic creation. The second you put it out there, you no longer own it. It exists by itself. It's conscious of its creation, but it's absent the actor that made it. And I've been thinking about that a lot and what it is that I want to create or why it is that I've set out on this journey to write in the first place. It's the only thing I've ever been good at. I think that's pretty obvious. I've said that before. I'm good at telling stories. I'm good at communicating concepts and ideas, and writing is the purest expression of that. It's absolute telepathy. There is no other way to describe it. We are communicating and putting thoughts from my head into yours. That's the act of reading. And yes, there are steps in between, and there are techniques, and there are ways to do that, but at its core, that's what writing is. And I think sometimes we get lost in working out what is popular, or not popular, but I think sometimes we conflate popularity with merit in the industry. I think sometimes we say to ourselves, this thing is successful because it sold a lot of books, or it's successful because it got into The Guardian, or they had an interview here, or these number of copies sold here, it has this many reviews. So what does successful actually mean anymore in the industry, when the industry is only really interested in numbers? Is it whether or not it impacted a bunch of people? Is it whether or not I think it has merit? And who the fuck am I to say what has merit? And I've been thinking about this a lot and trying to decide why I'm still writing this series. Obviously, I love doing it, but what's the outcome? What are we going for?
There's this Chinese folktale I like that I think illustrates my point quite well here. There was once a stonecutter who was dissatisfied with himself and with his position in life. One day he passed by a wealthy merchant's house. Through the gateway he saw many fine possessions and important visitors. How powerful that merchant must be, thought the stonecutter. He became very envious and wished that he could be like the merchant. To his great surprise, he suddenly became the merchant, enjoying more luxuries and power than he had ever imagined, but envied and detested by those less wealthy than himself. Soon a high official passed by, carried in a sedan chair, accompanied by attendants and escorted by soldiers beating gongs. Everyone, no matter how wealthy, had to bow before the procession. How powerful that official is, he thought. I wish that I could be a high official. And then he became the high official, carried everywhere in his embroidered sedan chair, feared and hated by the people all around. And it was a hot summer's day, so the official felt very uncomfortable in the sticky sedan chair. He looked up at the sun. It shone proudly in the sky, unaffected by his presence. How powerful the sun is, he thought. I wish that I could be the sun. And then he became the sun, shining fiercely down on everyone, scorching the fields, cursed by farmers and laborers. But a huge black cloud moved between him and the earth, so that his light could no longer shine on everything below. How powerful that storm cloud is, he thought. I wish that I could be a cloud. Then he became the cloud, flooding the fields and villages, shouted at by everyone. But soon he found that he was being pushed away by some great force, and realized that it was the wind. How powerful it is, he thought. I wish that I could be the wind. Then he became the wind, blowing tiles off the roofs of houses, uprooting trees, feared and hated by all below him. But after a while, he ran up against something that would not move, no matter how forcefully he blew against it. A huge, towering rock. How powerful that rock is, he thought. I wish that I could be a rock. And then he became the rock, more powerful than anything else on earth. But as he stood there, he heard the sound of a hammer pounding a chisel into the hard surface, and felt himself being changed. What could be more powerful than I? The rock, he thought. He looked down and saw far below him the figure of a stonecutter.
I'm not saying that the industry has to be a meritocracy, but the idea that to be successful, one must be popular, or one must have a presence. They have to be part of this culture, or TikTok, or Instagram, or Twitter, or whatever the hell it is that a particular publisher or publishing part of the industry has decided is the place we need to be. That's now a requirement to be successful. The idea that the work can't sell itself, the work has to be sold based on a person. The notion that someone who is good at vlogging would be good at writing a book. These are the questions that modern culture and social media have raised, where platforming is more important than the content on that platform. The thing I keep coming back to is, what if it didn't have to be? What if we could change that? What if we took our resources and we fought back a little bit? We're not going to change the tide, but maybe we can prove the industry wrong. Because this book is the best thing that I have ever done, creatively. Well, until book 3, that's the whole point of writing, right? Always gotta get better. But at the moment, this is the best thing that I have that exists that you can purchase. And I think it's important that that isn't necessarily tied to me. I don't think that me as a person, or my brand, or my number of followers, or the number of tweets should be the focal point. I think it should be okay for us to just celebrate art on art's merit, absent the actor. And yes, I'm the one writing them, and yes, I'm the one talking to you now, but that's not why I think these are good. I think these are good because we've poured time and resources and craft I've learned from the people out there. I've made the best creative work I could with the tools at my disposal. You shouldn't read it because I wrote it. You should read it because good art is worth consuming, because good art is worth existing for. I think we've all spent the better part of 2 years realizing that one of the fundamental building blocks of our society is good entertainment. Not just entertainment that keeps you busy, not just TikTok that you scroll through, but actually good quality entertainment, things that keep us engaged, that for 20 minutes at a time fight back the yawning, aching abyss that is spending time with ourselves just for a second. And sometimes really good art can make that other bit, being alone with ourselves, getting to know ourselves, can make it easier. I think about the works that have affected me, contemporary works that have affected me. BoJack Horseman, Dave. The list is long and detailed and inexplicable, but the works that affect us stay with us. And it's not about whether they're popular, it's about whether they're good and have merit. And so that's what we're gonna do, I think. We are going to try and sell a bunch of these. Sell a bunch of these books because we think they're good and we think that they should be out there. So what you're going to see soon is the project for that. We might lose our minds doing it, but me and my friend Sam are going to do our best. This isn't an ad for the books. This is just me letting you know we're starting to work on it. You're going to see more of that soon. We're going to be talking about them. We're going to be celebrating them. We're going to be celebrating you guys. It's going to be a process of getting to know what it is that we're trying to do in the publishing industry. We're going to shake up a few things. We're going to ruffle some feathers. We're going to upset some brick and mortar institutions. Probably going to piss off Penguin and HarperCollins. We're going to see what happens. I think it's time there was a change. I think it's time that independent publishing didn't have to have a dirty name. I don't think it's acceptable to us that independent publishing is a second tier to these institutions. They're doing it one type of way, we're going to do it a different way. We're going to find another option. We're going to find another way to get good art out there, because I think that people want good art, and I think that other artists need to see that it's doable. Other artists want to see it's doable. We want to empower those people to find their own space, to build their own communities, to find a way to bring what they perceive to be good work to people that they perceive that would want it. And that's what we want to do. We're not trying to sell books to people that don't want them or commercialize and do this or that. It's literally just, there are people out there who like this type of book and we want to sell it to them. We want to find a way to do that that is sincere and authentic and different and interesting. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to try not to lose our minds doing it.
Start recording. Okay. Sync, and it's coming through the mixer. Sweet. All right. My name is DC McNeil. I'm the author of Maynard Trigg, and we have a bit of a mission, don't we, Sam?
We do. My name is Sam Holston, and we're going to try to sell 100,000 books.
100,000, which is a lot of books. Specifically these books, not just any books. The Maynard Trigg series. I have written so far 2 of them. I have them both here with me. These 2 so far, book 3 is nearly ready soon. Our goal is to sell 100,000 books. We haven't really decided how long it's going to take or what it's going to take, but we think between us, quite hubristically, we may be able to do that at some point.
We may succeed, we may